Hi, welcome to Laura's View and Tarot 2. I am so glad you're here. Today's date is Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. I have to tell you, I had a little fun today searching today's topic and information. And it's not that it's that exciting a topic, it's about John Brennan, the former director of the CIA. Well, there's some chatter on X and on Telegram that John Brennan is no longer on U.S. soil. Now, the current chatter from those who are semi-awake seems to say they're worried about a couple things. First of all, has he been kidnapped because with his knowledge of the inner workings, with his former position as director of the CIA, he might still have some very relevant information that somebody might like to get their hands on. That didn't seem too terribly likely to me. Another theory that was out there was that he's actually down in Australia, which has a heavy CCP influence these days, trying to broker some alternatives for his future. And that sounded interesting, but not too likely. But the reason I was getting kind of a little bit of a giggle out of this is that deeper alt media sources have said for years that he has already faced consequences for some misdeeds. And so I did a little more searching about that to see what's going on. Now, normally, as you know, with my channel, we acknowledge the fact that there are the originals who've done crime X, Y, or Z, and possibly have faced some consequences for that, and then have we ask about the person seen in the public eye as, because my feeling has always been if someone is being allowed to portray this individual and still have their clout and influence and resources, we want to keep an eye on them. Well, today I'm going to reverse that a little bit, and I thought let's just set our minds at ease, because I think what the cards will confirm for us that the original John Brennan has been dealt with. And that's kind of where I want to go with this. Now let me show you a few things that kind of explain why I'm almost certain that that's the case. And what we've been hearing from, and hearing from we have John Brennan, or the person who is now portraying John Brennan, had his secret security clearances revoked January 23rd by President Trump. And I was just picturing, it's like, I could just imagine President Trump going, we killed the real one. Did they give the double access? Let's revoke that too now. Crossing all their T's and dotting their I's. Well, then a possible CGI representation of Mr. Brennan was whining in an interview about how, his clearances were revoked and he's only ever used them for good purposes, etc. But, if he's retired and moved on, he doesn't need them anyway. It's just like I don't need access to my whole school district's email. I'm done with that. I got my own email. But let's look at a few things that I looked at. Like I said, I'm going to show you why I'm kind of leaning towards he's been dealt with, and what we're dealing with now not only is a 2.0, but is not a security risk. They can kidnap him all day long if they want, but I think possibly more just CGI and some of the gamesmanship that's going on with making us think someone is alive and in a position that they're really no longer functioning at. So let me go to that share screen. I'm going to show you several different items, okay? First of all, I went to one of my favorite sites, hang on, for, and let me see if, okay, for intelligence drops, for the 17 drops. And there are 48 posts that contain the name Brennan. And they are pretty emphatic, especially this one, 4675. You can see John Brennan, treason. That's all this is involved. Okay, so the pretty emphatic that he violated his oath of office and colluded in ways that he should not have. Okay, so that was the 17 drops that I found pretty relevant. Then I called my friend Larry Martin, an astrologer out of Arizona, and I said, hey, Larry, you've got some truther connections. What do you know about John Brennan? He said, lots. And I told him I was looking into this theory that's going on, and he sent me John Brennan's astrology chart. If you're interested, when I go to this in a second, you can pause the screen and take a look at it. I know a lot of people can read them fairly quickly. I don't, but according to what his natal chart says for John Brennan, he was consequenced in November of 2020. And when I got a little help reading the chart, what was really kind of interesting was the summary I received on it said that on October 8th, 2020, transiting planets would have interacted with his natal chart. For instance, transiting Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto were in Capricorn, potentially activating his fifth house, Leo placements, or 10th house, career, suggesting a period of intense scrutiny or transformation in his professional life. And I thought, yeah, facing a firing squad or getting getting hung will qualify as a transformation in your professional life and intense scrutiny. So, but Larry said that possibly, according to the astrology chart, it was a done deal in 2020. Now, we know that the build a satire site, Real Raw News, often masks as entertainment or has some real good intel that's masked, not quite accurate on the date. And according to them, his consequence was hanging at Gitmo. Both of these say Gitmo was where he spent his last days. Interesting. Okay. And they have it for June 7th, 2021. So we've got two sources there, his natal chart, compliments of Larry Martin, his this article from Real Raw News, both contending that he was consequenced at the spa. I know I said the whole word. Hopefully the video will still remain up and I won't get my hand slapped. But November 2020 for one possible option, or the following summer for the other. Let's ask the universe. We're going to ask now about the original 1.0. Okay, so right now we're hearing chatter that somebody who's acting as John Brennan is, has left US soil. There's concerns and what have you. I think they may be totally irrelevant because maybe we're getting ready to wrap up the storyline. You know, there are some elements of commonality there. Okay, the spa, it's kind of off US soil, isn't it? I mean, I guess a base is, I don't know how that works out when you have a facility, but definitely not part of the mainland or one of our commonwealths or states. So let's just ask the universe about it and find out if there's truth to the assorted alt media assertions that there was the final consequencing of this gentleman has already occurred, plus additional insights and information. So let's find out. I'm going to switch the camera and let you watch me work with the cards, and we'll discover the answer together. Okay, for the purposes of this tarot read, we are inquiring about the original um, John Brennan, who was the former CIA director for a number of years and involved in a number of activities which made him the subject of 48 different 17 posts, all of them kind of a common theme that there had been shenanigans of a major scale going on. So we want to know if the alt media chatter that he was consequenced in either late 2020 or 2021 is accurate, plus additional insights and information. We would like this information also to be free of any veiling or obscuring efforts that have been placed over it. And we would like to have just very easy to read, full clarity type information that is shared with us in the fashion it would have been prior to any veiling or obscuring that might have happened. Okay, we have the King of Swords, the Three of Cups, Four of Wands, the Empress, Seven of Wands, Eight of Wands, and another seven, Seven of Pentacles. So let's take a look at what we've got so far with these cards, and then we'll layer on a few more cards and see if there's additional insights and information. Now, as you can see, there's no ace evident yet, which would be a definite hard yes. However, several of these cards do have a yes element to them. I'll share that with you as we go. We've also got a couple of multiples here. We've got multiple threes, multiple sevens, and those are, again, think about what our original question was. Is it accurate, the assertion by assorted alt media people that the consequencing of John Brennan is actually quite a bit in the past? And so that's going to be impactful too. So let's take a look here. The situation here, King of Swords. Okay, that's often a Mr. T card. Okay, and it is clarified with the Three of Cups, which is a kind of a celebrating success type of element to it. Now, we've got the two threes here working together here. They're talking about good fortune and success happening. So success. So yeah, we asked, is it true? And we got a yes here with the success. The Four of Wands is often one of the meanings of it, besides, just stable action plans, etc., is one of, in general, it's a yes. So we got a yes. The Empress, a yes. Now, here's what's interesting with the Empress. She often talks about conception. And in a read of this nature, it's not one of human biology, but one of ideas, I think. So the idea is being allowed to start circulating with this video from me and maybe some other people that are going to start speaking up and going, hey, why do we have to worry about John Brennan? He was consequenced several years ago. He's gone. He's off the scene. Whoever this is just a masked imposter. Don't worry about it. So the idea that we're speaking about in this video and others may start voicing, it's time for that to come forward. Now let's take a look at why I say that. We have the multiple sevens here in the near future line, which here's the near future, and then the strongest insight card and the lesser insight card here. But the two sevens also talk about success by following your hunches. So I had a hunch that the consequencing story was actually very accurate, even though there's a little discrepancy on dates or method of consequencing. The fact that the relevant facts seem to be, yes, consequencing occurred several years ago. That gentleman is no longer on the earthly plane. And so we get that confirmation here. Now, there's going to be some pushback. We got the high ground with truth. Okay, a little pushback. Stand firm in your truth always. If you know something to be true, it doesn't mean we have to shout it from the rooftops. Some people aren't ready for things like we discuss here, but if they are, don't back down. Okay. So, and don't worry, what we're getting some advice here is there's a lot of events that are going to be coming out, a lot of stories coming out. Again, hold your ground. Don't let them suck you in energetically, and just understand that, yeah, there's more to come. There is more to come. So we've got that here with this seven. Now let's get those other cards I said I'd get because we're looking for insights and information. It does look like there's going to be more openly, people more openly speaking about the consequencing, the outcomes that people have faced. That's going to be coming out. It's going to become more a part of everyday conversation. We have the Wheel of Fortune. We have the Nine of Wands. Justice. If we didn't have confirmation before, we've got it there. Ooh, and the Devil. Again, a double confirmation here. Lots of major arcana showing up here towards the end of the read. Interesting. Wheel of Fortune. In political reads where our world is going from dark to light, we kind of got a yes, and yeah. Removing him from positions of influence and power and even having him be consequenced for some of his actions helped bring our world from dark to light. Okay, we've got the nine of Wands, again, kind of holding your ground, being determined, even in the face of big events. So that's, you know, I think it may also be a nod to the method of, his demise. The Justice card just says that justice was served and that the gentleman had succumbed to some temptations in the course of his career. He allowed himself to be um, in his efforts to try to make his three-letter agency grow in influence and in power. He succumbed to some temptations. For him, it was power, is what I'm seeing, not so much, shenanigans of a personal, intimate nature, things like that. But for him, it was the power and control to be the one that felt like he was an integral part of a team that was actually running things in the background, those shadow governments that we have to face and deal with quite often, whether it's here or abroad. So there we have it. So let's recap. There's some chatter going on in different social media sections of the internet today that former CIA director John Brennan is no longer on US soil. And there was some concern, could he have been the victim of a kidnapping? There's chatter, is he trying to broker a deal and leave US soil permanently? Well, we also looked at the fact that there's been some reporting that's gone on for several years, and I will have a link to the article in my video description box, but it was reported by a satire site that often has a lot of truth embedded in it several years ago that the gentleman was met his demise at the spa. And then astrologer Larry Martin had his natal chart, which I showed in the course of this video, and his information and the natal chart showed that he had also come to an end back in, he thought it was even earlier, like in late 2020. And then an analysis of that chart said that the date that Larry used was actually one that was actually potentially very pivotal to professional transformation. So, and nothing more transformative than either facing a pew pew Scott or a rope necklace, right? So, whichever way it was. But it looks like Sweet just asked, I said, let's stop, at least in this instance, let's stop tracking the 2.0. Let's ask about the original because it seems like we got some pretty compelling information out there that yes, someone may be playing the part of him, someone may be off US soil, what have you, but that the real one is long gone, as with so many. So today we looked into the potentially long gone version and we asked about, hey, is the alt media chatter, at least in the large elements, correct that this gentleman has faced consequences and is no longer on the earthly plane? And additional insights and information. So we got some information. We got a number of cards that kind of nodded to yes, which is part of their function in the tarot deck, including the Four of Wands. The Empress card has a yes element to her. Also, she is a card that talks about birth of ideas, since we weren't asking about individuals, birth of an idea. And so that's when the card started telling me, it's not going to be little niche channels like mine that talk about this, about the 2.0s, about the consequencing and stuff. It's going to come more and more into the mainstream. We also looked at the fact that there were 48 different instances, different posts done by the 17 team that discussed this gentleman, and always with the same misdeed as what he was tied to, which was treason. The Justice card showed up, and interesting to me, it also showed up side by side with the Devil card. And my intuitive read on this is that the gentleman wasn't necessarily directly involved in misdeeds that were of an intimate nature, although I'm sure he was aware of them, capitalized on them, blackmail, etc., like this, but that for him it was the power, the influence, the realizing that I control you, or I can direct your decisions to people of, high office from his little bureaucratic corner of the world. And that was where his downfall was the control and influence that seemed to be it. And it looks like, again, there's going to be more conversations, leaving niche places like mine and getting more mainstream where people accept the reality. I mean, we're being led to that conclusion anyway, because it's more and more obvious that there's masks involved, body doubles, things like that. That's going to become more the conversation. And that should start to segue because there's more to come, a lot more to come. We're just at the start of it coming up, but it will, drip, drip, then a flood. Okay. That so much of this has happened. And again, if you're a long time alt media searcher, we've been told over and over again, we're watching a movie, that when we hear of things in the news, they're actually things that are, for example, like a negotiation with country ABC already happened before they ever talked about it. And that makes sense because you get your ducks in a row and then you inform people about it. So it does look like, the times they are changing. And yeah, John Brennan is off US soil. Oh, and it looks like indeed his final days were at the spa. Okay. And so we don't have to worry that the original is going to be coerced into giving out details that could compromise someone's safety because that's already a closed avenue. So that's good to see too. So that's it for this video as we explored, hey, what's up with the latest, where's John Brennan and what's going on? And I did my thumbnail kind of with a thought of, do you remember the old Ed McMahon going, here's Johnny? So where's Johnny? Looks like Johnny is not Johnny on the spot. He's gone for good. And the cards indicated that, and that information is going to be divulged and it'll become more commonplace. And change is coming. Good change. We need some truth and honesty and transparency. And let's push those 2.0s off the board and know what we're dealing with and build ourselves a stronger, better country, world, reality, whatever. That's Laura's view on this. Okay, so thank you for watching. I appreciate you so much. And if you're willing to receive it, I send you love, light, and I wish you everything bright. Bye.